The morning sun filtered through my small balcony window as I reached for the watering can. My 23 potted plants were lined up against the railing of my Tenderloin apartment, each one representing a chapter of my life I couldn't let go of. I called the largest tomato plant Mr. Rodriguez, named after the first patient I ever saved during my 32 years as a nurse at San Francisco General. I was talking to him, actually talking out loud like I did every morning, when my phone rang. The number on the screen made my hands shake. Whitmore and Associates. I'd only heard that name once before, 26 years ago, when Richard and I signed our divorce papers in their mahogany-paneled conference room on the 43rd floor. Mrs. Chen? The voice was professional, careful. This is Jennifer Whitmore. I'm calling regarding Richard Chen's estate. I'm very sorry for your loss. Loss. The word felt strange. Richard and I hadn't spoken in 15 years. Not since Olivia's college graduation, when she'd made it clear she didn't want me there. I understand, I said quietly, setting down the watering can. Water dripped onto the concrete, forming a small puddle that caught the light. Mr. Chen's will reading is scheduled for this Tuesday at 2 p.m. Your presence is requested. After I hung up, I stood there for a long moment, watching the water puddle spread. Richard was gone. The man who'd promised me forever 40 years ago, who'd left me for his career 26 years ago, who'd built an empire while I worked double shifts to keep our daughter fed, he was gone. My phone rang again. This time, I knew the number by heart, even though she rarely used it to call me. Margaret. Not Mom. Never Mom. Not since she was 9 years old. Hello, Olivia. I assume you got the call from the lawyer. Her voice was crisp, businesslike. I could picture her in her corner office, probably looking out over the bay, her Louboutin heels kicked off under her desk. Listen, just sign whatever paperwork they give you and leave. Dad probably left you something small out of obligation. Don't make this difficult, okay? I closed my eyes. 26 years, and my daughter still spoke to me like I was an inconvenience. I'll be there, I said softly. Well, dress appropriately. Dad's business partners will be there. I don't need you showing up in your Goodwill specials. She paused. Actually, you know what? Just don't come. I'll handle everything. You'll get whatever Dad left you by mail. Olivia. I have to go. I have a meeting. The line went dead. I looked at Mr. Rodriguez. She gets that from her father, I told him. The coldness. Not from me. But that wasn't entirely true, was it? I'd had a hand in creating the woman she'd become, even if it was by absence rather than presence. When Richard's parents took her at 9 years old, promising her private schools and opportunities I could never afford, I'd let her go. I'd believed it was for the best. I'd been wrong. Tuesday morning, I put on my best dress, the navy blue one I'd bought for my retirement party 3 years ago. It still looked decent, even if it was from Macy's clearance rack. I spent an extra minute on my makeup, trying to cover the age spots and the exhaustion that had settled into my face like permanent fixtures. The bus ride downtown took 45 minutes. I watched the city transform outside the window from the struggling neighborhoods I called home to the gleaming towers of the financial district, Richard's world. Olivia's world, never mine. The lobby of the Whitmore building was all marble and glass. I felt out of place immediately, my worn purse clutched against my side as executives in $1,000 suits strode past me. The security guard barely glanced at me before waving me through to the elevators. 43rd floor. The doors opened onto a reception area that probably cost more than I'd made in my entire nursing career. Margaret Chen, I told the receptionist. For the Chen estate reading. She smiled professionally. Conference room B. Down the hall. Second door on your left. My heart was hammering as I walked. Through the glass walls, I could see the conference room. There was Olivia, already seated, her back straight, her dark hair pulled into a perfect chignon. She was wearing a black Armani suit that probably cost $5,000. She didn't see me approaching, but when I opened the door, her head turned. Her expression didn't change, not a flicker of warmth or acknowledgement, just a slight tightening around her eyes. Margaret, she said, I told you not to come. I was invited, I said quietly, taking a seat near the door. Not at the table where she sat, queenly and confident, near the exit, where I belonged, apparently. This is such a waste of time, Olivia muttered, checking her phone. I have a board meeting at 4. The lawyer, Jennifer Whitmore, entered then. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 45, with kind eyes that looked at me with something like sympathy. "Thank you both for coming," she said, settling at the head of the table with a leather portfolio. "I know this is difficult." Richard was very specific about how he wanted this handled. Olivia leaned back in her chair. "Let's just get through this. I assume the estate goes primarily to me, with maybe a small provision for Margaret here. That's standard, right?" Jennifer's expression remained neutral. "Let's begin." She opened the portfolio. I could see Richard's handwriting on the first page, his bold, aggressive scrawl that I'd recognize anywhere. "I, Richard Chen, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament." Jennifer's voice was steady, professional. "I have thought carefully about my legacy and what I wish to leave behind." Olivia was barely listening, still scrolling through her phone. Jennifer continued, "To my daughter, Olivia Chen, who has built an impressive career and life for herself." Olivia looked up, a small smile playing at her lips. "I leave the sum of $20, and this message. You chose luxury over love, prestige over family, and wealth over the one person who sacrificed everything for you. I hope $20 will buy you clarity." The silence was deafening. Olivia's face went pale, then flushed red. "What?" "There's more," Jennifer said quietly. "To Margaret Chen, my ex-wife, who I wronged more than any person I have ever known." Jennifer looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes, knowledge of something I didn't understand yet. "I leave the entirety of my estate, including all properties, business holdings, and liquid assets totaling approximately $180 million. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of my chair. Olivia stood up so fast her chair fell backward. "That's not possible. That's not legal. She's not even family anymore." "It's completely legal," Jennifer said calmly. "And there's more you both need to hear." "More?" Olivia's voice was shrill. "This is insane. Margaret, did you manipulate him? Did you get to him before he died?" "I haven't spoken to your father in 15 years, I whispered. Jennifer pulled out another document. "Richard wanted me to read this letter. Out loud. To both of you." She cleared her throat. "This was written 3 months before his death." The letter began simply, "Margaret, by the time you hear this, you'll know what I've left you. You'll probably be confused, maybe angry. Olivia will certainly be both. But I need to explain why, and more importantly, I need to tell Olivia the truth about her mother. The truth I've kept hidden for 22 years. My vision blurred. "No, he wouldn't. We'd agreed never to." Jennifer kept reading. "In 2002, my company was investigated for securities fraud. The evidence was substantial. I was looking at 15 years in federal prison. My parents' legacy, my fortune, Olivia's future, all of it, would have been destroyed." Olivia had gone completely still. "Margaret came to me in the middle of the night. She'd figured out what was happening, and she offered me a deal that I should have refused but didn't, because I was a coward." Jennifer's voice wavered slightly. She would take the fall. She would claim the illegal trades were her idea, that she'd pressured me into it, that I'd been a victim of her manipulation. The evidence could be spun that way if we worked together. And because Margaret was nobody, no money, no connections, no power, the prosecution was willing to accept a lesser sentence for her cooperation. "No," Olivia breathed. "Margaret Chen went to prison for 2 years, Jennifer continued. "Not for any crime she committed, but to save me and, by extension, to save you, Olivia. While you were attending Stanford, living in a penthouse apartment I paid for, wearing designer clothes, your mother was in federal prison. She lost her nursing license. She lost her career. She lost everything. I couldn't look at Olivia. I stared at my hands, at the calluses from years of gardening and odd jobs, the only work I could find after my release. I told you your mother was unstable," Richard's letter went on. "I told you she'd had a breakdown, that she'd chosen to distance herself from you. I paid her to maintain that lie. Every month for 22 years, I sent her money to never tell you the truth. She took it, not because she needed it for herself, she gave most of it to charity, but because she thought knowing would destroy you." Jennifer paused, looking at me. "Should I continue?" I nodded, unable to speak. "I'm dying now, and the truth dies with me if I don't speak it." Olivia, your mother is the strongest, most selfless person I have ever known. She raised you alone for 9 years on a nurse's salary. She worked double shifts so you could have a good preschool. She missed your school plays because she was saving lives at the hospital. And when I offered to have my parents take you, give you the life she couldn't afford, she let you go because she loved you more than she loved herself. A sound escaped Olivia's throat, something between a gasp and a sob. Then she went to prison for me. For us. And I repaid her by turning you against her. I made you believe she'd abandoned you, that she was weak, that she was embarrassing. I taught you to call her by her first name, to treat her like a stranger. I did this because it was easier than admitting what she'd sacrificed, easier than letting you see me for what I really was, a coward who let a good woman suffer for his sins. Jennifer turned the page. Margaret, the money is yours. All of it. It's not payment, it could never be payment, but it's acknowledgement. It's me finally telling the truth. You saved my life, my company, and my daughter's future. You gave up everything, and I gave you nothing in return but silence and shame. The room was completely silent except for Olivia's ragged breathing. Olivia, Jennifer read the final paragraph. Your mother is a hero. She's the kind of person I pretended to be in boardrooms and charity galas. Everything you have, everything you are, exists because she was willing to lose everything. The $20 is symbolic. It's all I ever truly gave you: money without love, wealth without values, prestige without character. Your mother gave you everything that matters, and you've treated her like garbage for 22 years. I'm sorry I taught you to do that. I hope it's not too late for you to learn who she really is. Jennifer set down the letter. There's one more provision. Margaret, Richard has structured the inheritance as a trust. You have full access to it, but there's a special clause regarding Olivia. I finally looked at my daughter. Tears were streaming down her face, her perfect makeup ruined, her composure shattered. What clause? I whispered. Olivia can access a trust fund of $10 million, but only after she completes 1,000 hours of volunteer service at organizations serving immigrant families and low-income communities. The same communities Margaret has been volunteering with since her release from prison. Olivia's hands were shaking. You volunteered? After everything after prison, you volunteered? It's what I know how to do, I said softly. Help people. She stood up suddenly, her chair scraping against the floor. For a moment, I thought she would leave. Instead, she walked around the table and stood in front of me. You went to prison, she said, her voice breaking. You went to prison for us. For you, I corrected gently. Everything was always for you. I called you Margaret. I told you not to come today. I said you were an embarrassment. She was crying openly now, her professional facade completely gone. I haven't said Mom in 26 years. I stood up, my old knees protesting, and did something I hadn't done since she was 9 years old. I reached for her hand. She grabbed it like a lifeline. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. I know, sweetheart. I know. How can you forgive me? How can you even look at me? Because you're my daughter. That's what mothers do. We stood there in that conference room, 43 floors above the city, holding hands while my daughter cried for everything we'd lost and everything I'd sacrificed. Jennifer quietly excused herself, giving us privacy. I don't want the money, Olivia said finally. I don't want any of it. It should all be yours. Then you'll do the volunteer work, I said. Not for the trust fund, for yourself, because you need to learn what I should have taught you a long time ago. What's that? That the most valuable things in life can't be bought, worn, or displayed in a penthouse. They're grown slowly, like my plants. They're earned through showing up, even when it's hard, even when no one sees. I squeezed her hand. Your father gave you money. I want to give you something better. What? A second chance. At being the person you were meant to be before wealth and lies got in the way. She wiped her eyes with her free hand, smearing her mascara even more. I don't know how to be that person. Then I'll teach you, I said. That's what mothers do. 3 months later, I sold Richard's penthouse and most of his properties. I kept the money in trust funds and charitable foundations, living off a modest amount that was still more than I'd ever imagined having. I moved out of my Tenderloin apartment, but not to Pacific Heights or Nob Hill. I bought a small house in the Sunset District with a real garden, space for 100 plants instead of 23. Olivia came every Sunday. At first, she was awkward, showing up in jeans and a Stanford sweatshirt that looked brand new, clearly bought for the occasion. She didn't know how to use garden tools. She didn't know how to talk to the immigrant families at the community center where we volunteered. She didn't know how to be anything other than CEO Olivia Chen. But she learned. I taught her to make dumplings using her grandmother's recipe, the same one I'd tried to teach her when she was 10 and she'd walked away. This time, she stayed. She learned to fold the edges just right, learned that some things can't be rushed or outsourced. She learned to sit with elderly patients at the nursing home where I volunteered twice a week. She learned that sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is just being present, just listening to their stories, even when they repeat them for the third time. She learned to tutor kids whose parents worked 3 jobs and still couldn't make rent. She learned that intelligence doesn't always come with privilege, that some of the brightest minds she'd ever encountered were in bodies wearing second-hand clothes. On a rainy Sunday in February, we were in my garden, planting spring bulbs. Olivia's hands were dirty, her nails once perfectly manicured, now short and practical. "Mom," she said, and the word still made my heart skip even though she'd been using it for months now. "I've been thinking about something." "What's that?" "My company. I built it on Dad's money, Dad's connections, Dad's reputation." She sat back on her heels, looking at the tulip bulbs in her hands. "I don't know if I earned any of it." "You worked hard," I said carefully, "but I started on third base and thought I'd hit a triple." She smiled sadly. "Isn't that what they say?" "What are you thinking?" "I want to start over. Not completely. I'm not going to throw away my education or experience, but I want to build something that's actually mine, something that helps people, not just makes money." "Like what?" "A nonprofit. Legal services for low-income families, immigration cases, housing disputes, workers' rights." She looked at me. "All those people I've been meeting at the volunteer center? They need lawyers who actually give a damn. I could be that lawyer." I felt tears prick my eyes. "Your father would be proud." "I don't care about Dad anymore," she said quietly. "I care what you think." "I think," I said, reaching over to squeeze her muddy hand with my own muddy hand, "that you're becoming exactly who you were always meant to be." She smiled, really smiled. And for a moment I saw my little girl again, the one who used to help me plant herbs on our tiny balcony, who used to believe her mother could do anything. "I hit 947 hours last week," she said. 53 to go before I can access the trust fund. "Are you going to take it?" She shook her head. "I'm going to leave it there. Use the interest for the nonprofit. I don't need $10 million. I just needed to earn it." We planted in silence for a while, the rain soft on the leaves around us. "Mom?" "Yes?" "Thank you for not giving up on me. Even when I gave you every reason to." I thought about all those years. The prison cell, the lost career, the loneliness, the phone calls where she called me Margaret in that cold, dismissive voice. The invitations that never came, the grandchildren I'd probably never have, the decades of sacrifice that had seemed at times to be for absolutely nothing. "You're my daughter," I said simply. "That's what mothers do." She leaned her head on my shoulder, this brilliant, broken, healing woman who had once been my baby girl. We sat there in the rain, in the garden I'd built, surrounded by life that grew slowly, patiently, beautifully, just like love, just like redemption. Just like second chances that take root when you least expect them and bloom into something more precious than all the money in the world.